Let's go find some music. What dumb shit am I gonna play today? What would be good for a viral epidemic outbreak? We'll go back to this one. I know this is a song that I've used before, but you're just gonna have to bear with me because I didn't fucking prepare for this morning, so we'll just rock out to this. That sound good? I don't know if you could hear it. Here goes the cat. Hope she doesn't have coronavirus. Yeah. Yeah. Compelling content. Okay, good morning, everybody. Today we are going to be covering a topic that I have been seeing, and I think I'm going to go into other things here. But basically, what I was getting at is this is going to be part of a new series that I'm going to do called Conspiracy Killer, possibly. It's something I want to do that I'm fostered by fake news, disinformation, and all that shit spreading across the internet. How shit like this can be taken over by people, because a friend of mine mentioned it the other day. I ain't even heard about it yet. But, there was like this whole thing, and it's kind of like bumping up into this conspiracy of the coronavirus. I don't know if you've heard of it, but yes, it is a virus. It is a virus that is more or less like an influenza that is passing around and going around in China. And essentially what I want to get at here with the conspiracy killer thing is to kind of foster websites like Snopes, stuff like that, to kind of quell disinformation, because disinformation in this age of spin has become a fucking ridiculous thing. So I just want to kind of offer my take to my viewers, to my audience, and just kind of try to offer some mediation between all this crazy shit you're hearing about the coronavirus, and it's coming to kill all the white babies in the street and blah 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 blah. So people have basically taken this coronavirus thing, they've kind of ran with it. They've kind of like, this shit has happened a million times before, where a viral outbreak happens in China, and then all of a sudden, the shit happened with SARS, swine flu, all this other shit, and it's the same goddamn thing. It's like, you first of all, there's a couple things you got to take into account here in accord. First of all, I'm not a doctor, okay? I'm not a professional physician or anything like that, but my family has been in the medical field for a long time. One of the major interests growing up that my mother, more or less got me into, because she was in the medical field, was medical sciences, stuff like that. I've always been fascinated by them. I've always been fascinated by what science and medical sciences in particular in general, all kinds of shit dealing with that. So I've done studying, research over time, watched things and stuff like that. There's a fucking train going by, so deal with it. I've basically looked at all that stuff over time and watched tons of documentaries and tons of, scientific research and stuff like that. So while I'm not a doctor, I can sit here and say, I have been around a lot of medical staff and medical people throughout my entire life. So with that being said, there's been a lot of knowledge imparted about pathogens, how pathogens pass from one person to the other, what's the difference between an airborne pathogen and something that, is passed through touch, stuff like that. So I'm not completely ignorant on the subject. So, first off, let's just go ahead and go into the fact of what the coronavirus is. Try to make this as coherent as we can with no planning, kind of just riffing it off the cuff. Essentially, the coronavirus is just, a viral like contagion, a flu-like symptom, stuff like that, an upper respiratory infection that has killed some people, and in the grand scheme of things, not to sound cruel, but compared to the population of China, the death toll is minimal compared to the population of China. Okay. There's a couple things that we need to bear in mind here about the coronavirus. It is something that is not yet treatable, I guess, but it is something with appropriate medical care, like facilities in America that have more modern technology, stuff like that, should be something that you can survive. And that's just a matter of, with most influenzas and stuff like that, you should take it as the most susceptible people are going to be the very elderly and the young. People like my age, stuff like that, with higher immunities, stronger immunities to pathogen, should be relatively okay. That's just like here in Gastonia a long time ago when the swine flu was coming out. We actually knew somebody who had the swine flu. Him and his girlfriend got it, and they were living in an apartment, and basically he was quarantined by, the doctors. They wrote him out of work for like a fucking week or something like that, and they were quarantined to their apartment. They could not leave. Had to wear a respiratory mask or a surgical mask, stuff like that, to prevent spread of it, and they lived. They survived. But at the time, if you believe what the media was shoving in your mouth with the fear-mongering, you would have thought that you were going to fucking die, that it was the worst goddamn thing that could ever happen to you, so on and so forth. Interesting side note, the coronavirus is named the coronavirus simply because of the way the cells look, apparently. The way the pathogen looks. It looks like a corona, a star corona, I guess. So that's why they've named it that so far. They haven't came up with a name. I guess coronavirus will stick, whatever. It's being controlled, it's being contained. The processes are going on, but in the meantime, the media's hitting us over the head with it. And then, of course, fucking people on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else are taking it forward. They're spreading panic and fear, which is the danger of shit like this. People also spread disinformation from fucking various stupid websites that are not trusted media sources or not reliable media sources. That should be more accurate. And yes, it is a very deadly thing in a country where medical treatment and medical facilities can be on short supply. You got to bear in mind that China, for the most part, Hong Kong, various areas of China, are still very, very undeveloped. There's still a lot of countryside. There's still a lot of people who are in close proximity to farm animals and farm keep, stuff like that. That's why shit like this spreads from China and third world countries first. One of the biggest gelling pots of pathogen and contagion is shit like that, being in close proximity to like the feces of animals, the bedding of animals, pigs, livestock, cows, chickens, etc. Swine flu, let me go back here a second. Pathogens like that can mutate in, let's say, a pig. Okay, let's say, for example, a pig gets a virus. If it's allowed to gestate and it's allowed to grow in the proper environments and stuff like that, it can, mutate and jump from, the pigs to, human beings. That is why we have practices in America and most developed countries for containing or handling livestock when they're sick. For example, the mad cow disease. When mad cow disease broke out, it was a devastating thing for the beef industry. So there's plenty of processes in place for pathogens in the developed world. Okay, and as scary as this seems, there are precautions and simple things you could do to prevent it. Just because your neighbor gets, going back to the swine flu story, just because that guy got swine flu doesn't mean everybody in the town got immediately infected by swine flu. As a matter of fact, he was one of, if not the only cases that popped up in Gastonia. Now, with all that being said, let me just go ahead and give some fairness and some credence here. Now, the thing you have to research, and I've talked about this before, the thing you do have to research and you have to be aware of and you should be very scared of, is the fact that there is going to be one day a global pandemic with the likes of, the Black Death, the plague, stuff like that, that is going to hit the world. That is something that scientists, medical scientists, and scientists in general, and disease control have stated. Okay, that is something that is going to happen because of just the simple fact that just take normal influenza virus. Every year it mutates. And that's why they have to come out with a new vaccine for it. Because every year it's new. It's a new virus. But one day they're anticipating, like for example with influenza, eventually influenza will grow past the point of us being able to contain it quickly enough. So in theory, the viral outbreak could happen in America. It can come from America just because of the simple fact of us fighting the virus, unfortunately, is making the virus stronger. You get what I'm saying? So with something like this, yes, it's okay to be concerned, especially like the people I would consider to be the most concerned, who should be the most concerned, in my non-medical opinion, is probably people with young children, babies, and elderly members of the household, very elderly, stuff like that, who have weakened immune systems and stuff like that. Mainly if you have children, especially attending public schools, stuff like that. If something like this was to spread, your children will probably be the first ones infected and become carriers, because that's all basically public schools are now, is just a big breeding ground of disease. One child gets it, they're going around touching each other, kissing each other, doing stupid kid shit. You know how they go. And next thing you know, a viral contagion is just fucking overwhelming the American infrastructure. So if coronavirus starts to pop up in your town, I would suggest you probably talk to the school system, rally with other parents and the PTA, and start to discuss what the game plan is quickly and immediately if they're going to pull kids out of school, yada yada yada. I would start to talk to your local government officials, your local PTA, like I said, school officials, stuff like that, to see right now what the game plan would be if this hypothetical situation came out, and what you would do. It's always good to have a game plan. It's always good to be far ahead of that curve. Okay. Just to keep yourself rested at night and keep your kids from fucking going outside every day thinking they're going to die of the goddamn coronavirus. For God's sakes, don't pile that on your children. Don't be like, honey, did you hear about the coronavirus? Don't touch anybody today. Don't say hey to anybody. You're going to die. Don't do that shit to your kids. Just seriously, just teach them practical medical knowledge and teach them that viruses happen all the time. You're covered in viruses. There's constantly viruses and parasites attacking you. That's just the nature and the ecosystem. That's just how it is. So anyways, I hope some of this helped today. I know it's not the most thorough and in-depth video, but that's just my opinion. You could look it up. Basically, I'll try to provide as many links and resources as I can to show you that what the virus is doing, stuff like that. It's essentially like an influenza, like I said, and because of the close proximity to, all these things in China and Asia, third world countries, that is why stuff like this breaks out so readily available. And I mean, especially in a place like Africa where you don't have medical resources or medical infrastructure to contain something, you could have something like, Ebola pop out like Ebola did a couple of years ago. And it's no surprise. And when it came to the States, it basically was stopped at the door because we have the medical supplies, we have the medical infrastructure to handle diseases like that. But in a place where there is not hospitals for miles and miles and miles, sometimes hundreds of miles away from a fucking hospital even, you're looking at a very dangerous situation. So this in turn though should be an example to the developed countries to come into places like China, Africa, third world nations, and lend our support in medical philanthropy to build infrastructures for these people to prevent the diseases, where they're, and spread education about how diseases are spread, stuff like that. What's the difference between a disease going through, say, for example, blood, a bloodborne pathogen that goes through the eyes or blood contact, so on and so forth. And how to wash their hands, proper sanitary facilities, all that good stuff. And to teach them how to keep their livestock at a proper distance from their homes, how to, do stuff like that. And as simple as stuff like that seems to Americans, that education is honestly like severely lacking in a lot of underdeveloped countries. There's a lot of underdeveloped countries where education is not a priority, where education is not, just simple basic education is not like known. Because it's like you really don't need to know how to do complex arithmetic to raise a farm. Shit like that. I mean, and also there are no schools. I mean, so it's just basic shit that's not being taught, like how to wash your hands, sanitize, and stuff like that, you know. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. First video of the day. Hope this, like I said, once again, has helped you some. If it hasn't, then, you know, so on and so forth, then, you know, whatever. But I'm just trying to do this primarily to keep you from living in a damn shell of paranoia and fear and not doing the actual research and stuff like that. Go look at viable resources like the CDC in America. Go look at their website and see what they have to say about the coronavirus and stuff like that. Those are the people you should be trusting about what the hell's going on here when it comes to pathogens and outbreaks like this, okay? So I'll see you guys later. Bye.